Philippine education throughout the years. Let us begin with the pre-colonial era. According to records, an old man in the barangay operated a school called Buthan in ancient Panay. The children were taught reading, writing, and mathematics. Using of weapons and amulets to ward off evil or bring good fortune was also common. Baybayin was a native alphabet that was commonly used in Luzon and other regions of the Philippines before the period of the Spanish colonization. Fathers taught their sons to be hunters, farmers, fishers, miners, lumbermen, shipbuilders, and fighters, while the mothers taught their daughters to cook, sew, plant, and weave. This include teaching of sex hygiene and preparing them for parenting. Let's now move on into the Philippine education system under the Spanish regime. On March 16, 1521, the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan first landed in the Philippines, denoting the genesis of the Spanish colonization. During the Spanish colonization, not all Filipinos had an access to education. There was a massive proportion of Christian doctrines being used, and the promotion and imposition of the Spanish culture and language were also implemented. Education during this period were only open into the elite social and economic classes. Also, various religious orders governed the education system. In 1565, the emergence of parochial schools started by the Augustinians and thereafter by the religious Spanish orders. On the year 1621, the Dominicans founded the University of Santo Tomas, the Philippines' oldest pontifical university. Other colleges and universities were also founded like the Colegio de San Juan de Letran, Colegio de San Jose, and others. There was a private school regulation in the year 1863. Public schools were also formed as well as the foundation of a normal school. A minimum of one elementary school for both boys and girls was under the supervision of the municipal government in each municipality. The Spaniards didn't give the Filipinos a chance to learn Spanish since the Spaniards feared that the locals would realize the importance of knowledge in relation to the truth and justice, therefore incite insurrection. Let's now move on into the American rule. In the year 1898, the Spanish regime has ended after 333 years of colonizing the country and was replaced by the American rule. Americans promoted democratic ideas and ways of living. In the year 1901, the Department of Public Instruction and the Educational Act of 1901 has been created. The first public school teachers were the American soldiers called the Thomasites. Because of the American educational system, Filipinos are more suited for the administrative civil service. In the year 1902, the University of Santo Tomas was declared as a pontifical university by the Pope Leo VIII. And in the year 1908, the University of the Philippines was founded by the Act number 1870. In January 1, 1935, as per the 1935 Constitution, educational objectives include the development of moral character, personal discipline, civic consciousness, occupational efficiency, and the performance of civic responsibilities. Here are other significant events. In the year 1936, with the issuance of number 134, President Quezon recognized Tagalog as the foundation of the national language for the Philippines. And in the year 1940, the Educational Act of 1940 reduced the number of years spent in elementary school from 7 to 6. The minimum age for entering school was 7 years old, and the attendance of elementary school children in first grade is mandatory. The Americans felt that education should be free for all and that it should prepare people for modern life, so even the youngsters should be able to finish primary school. Let us now move on into the Philippine education system under the Japanese occupation. In January 1 of 1940, the Japanese educational policy emphasized reorientation. The main characteristics were the spread of Filipino culture, the teaching and propagation of Nippongo, distribution of vocational and primary education, and the development of labor love. In February 17 of 1942, the Japanese Imperial Forces issued Order No. 2 to establish wartime educational goals. And now, the Philippine education system under the Republic. The educational changes emphasize both academic and vocational studies. Educational reforms emphasize technical and practical courses to address the issue of the white-collar unemployment caused by the excess graduates in different academic fields like business, liberal arts, and law. In July 14 of 1946, during the independence of the Philippines, teachers' living and working conditions were improved. Barrio and provincial schools were also created. The educational efforts to enhance the studies and evaluations supporting the national development and values education were initiated. And in June 14 of 1947, the Board of Textbooks was established. The board's responsibility was to evaluate and approve textbooks for use in all public schools throughout the nation. As long as the Board of Education does not object, private schools are allowed to use whichever textbooks they choose. In June 15 of 1954, the teachers who want to work in public schools are obliged to complete the Civil Service Examination or CSE, as stipulated by number 1079. In June 18 of 1966, there was a Magna Carta for teachers. This aims to enhance the social and economic standing of public school teachers, as well as their living and working circumstances, employment terms, and career opportunities so that they can compete with other professions and attract and keep more competent individuals in the teaching profession. In January 17 of 1973, aside from the Youth Development Training and Citizens Advanced Training programs, other educational programs were established between 1977 and 1986, including the NCEE, which was subsequently dissolved in 1994, the NSAT, and the NEAT, and other similar programs. Students who get honors throughout their post-secondary education are immediately eligible for government service. In September 22, 1976, it was stated that teachers must now pass the LET, which is now administered by the PRC according to the provisions of the Republic Act of 7836. And in January 1 of 1982, the Education Act of 1982 was passed in order to promote and sustain the quality education by upgrading the standards of all institutions. In January 1 of 1991, the DEX, or the Department of Education and Cultural Affairs, was divided into three departments, which is the Department of Basic Education, the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, and the Commission in Higher Education. In February 3 of 1992, the Students' Employment Law, or the Republic Act 7323, states that students aged 15 to 25 may be employed during the summer or Christmas vacations for a salary not less than the minimum wage, with the company covering 60% of the revenue and the government covering 40%. Last is the K-12 education that was signed into law by the President Benigno Aquino Simeon III on May 15, 2013. Kindergarten and 12 years of basic education are included in the K-12 program to prepare the students for further education, middle-level skill development, employment, and entrepreneurship. That would be all. Thanks for watching.